Hello, everybody. Welcome. I am delighted to be here with you today, and I am really excited and honored to be here with Barbara Hand Clow. Welcome, Barbara.
Hello, Jocelyn, and it's my pleasure. We got delayed a couple of times, and finally we meet.
Yes,
Yes,
finally
it's a
we meet,
joy.
we get to talk. So, yes, I am so happy to be here with you today, and I will share just a little bit in the way of introduction of your work as we begin here. Barbara Hand Clow is an internationally acclaimed ceremonial teacher, author, and Mayan calendar researcher. Her numerous books include The Pleiadian Agenda, Alchemy of Nine Dimensions, Awakening the Planetary Mind, Astrology and the Rising of Kundalini, and The Mayan Code. And all of Barbara's books were truly ahead of their time and are now becoming more and more relevant every day, which is just so amazing. And we're going to talk about that today, I'm sure. And Barbara has taught at sacred sites all around the world. She maintains an astrological website, which is www.handclow2012.com. And you can go there and find free readings for the solstices and equinoxes. Barbara and her husband Gerry taught Pleiadian agenda activations all over the world from 1995 to 2012. And today we are especially going to focus on this really amazing book, Alchemy of the Nine Dimensions, which I've been reading a few times now. It is just so wonderful, and we're gonna highlight the topics in that book particularly today. So thank you, Barbara, for the amazing work that you have done and all the inspiration that you are bringing to the world.
Thank you.
So I love how near the beginning of this book you share that you and your husband Gerry have been leading these activations of the nine dimensions for people for many, many years since 1995. And so I would just love to begin there and ask how have people experienced that over the decades, and yeah, what has come through in those workshops?
What's come through, it was a period of about 20, 25 years, and of course ended in 2012, just because we got exhausted. And what came through was that we were in a position to watch the development, initiatic development of students over a long period of time. And I can honestly tell you that even though it's very discouraging right now, we really are getting someplace because people are really, um, year by year by year, really developing themselves. And what's happened with the book at this point is part of the reason I stopped teaching the activations is that I wanted to write a fictional trilogy describing characters in Tuscany and Italy and United States who were going through nine-dimensional awakenings. And I felt like that was an important thing for me to somehow get done. And that means trilogy, of course, three books, because storytelling is what seems to be the easiest way for people to absorb magical and initiatic information. And so I did write the trilogy. I got it done, and people love reading it. And so I haven't really stopped the activations, but now they're on the pages of three books of fiction.
Amazing,
We
amazing.
miss it because Gerry and I love teaching together. But Gerry is a cranial sacral therapist, and he works here in Santa Fe. And so we're still working together. We're just working together on different levels.
Yeah, so beautiful.
Yeah.
And yeah, your work has been so far ahead of its time all along the way. It's really wonderful. And so diving into this concept of the nine dimensions, we were chatting before we started recording about how you were saying the nine dimensions and an understanding of that is so important for us at this time as we're experiencing these really intense energies and rapid shifts in the world. So could you share more about how we as humans relate to the nine dimensions and how can that help us at this particular time?
Well, of course, the nine-dimensional teaching came through to me in the Pleiadian Agenda, which came out in 1995. And that was a channeled book. And then Gerry and I started teaching it. And we started noticing that a lot of the really crazy, wacky things that the Pleiadians were saying in the Pleiadian agenda were actually starting to come true. And when I say come true, I mean various scientific aspects of the dimensions. So in 2003, 2004, I decided to write Alchemy of Nine Dimensions in order to undertake a scientific analysis of a channeled book. And then Alchemy has gone through three editions now. It just the third edition was 2024. And with each of those editions, I was able to improve the quality of the material based on what I was experiencing teaching workshops. And so at this point, the book is really complete. And that's really a kind of outrageous thing to say because it really is claiming to describe nine dimensions of consciousness that we all can access and work with if we want to. And also, as see, Jocelyn, time keeps rolling along. And even though it came out in 2024, I've already had another really major insight about it, which is that basically what's happening to us now is that we're going back into having two levels of consciousness, being able to understand and perceive in the etheric realm, the higher dimensional realm, and then be able to function more intentionally and more wisely in the lower dimensions, the first through four dimensions. And so at this point, we are coming very, very close you see, there's been, people call it the veil. There's been a block on our species for thousands of years now between the physical, emotional, tectonic dimensions of our lives and then the higher, more spiritual dimensions of our lives. And the reason we're in such a state of wild consciousness right now is that breakthrough is coming very close. And the alchemy of nine dimensions does not teach it that way, the differential between the lower dimensions and the higher dimensions. It's a teaching book about how to go through each one of those dimensions. Because if you think about it, in order to integrate that higher realm with our physical reality world, we need to take all of these steps as far as I can see. And you've already, of course, read it a few times and you know how useful it is. It's really, in some ways, a very practical, simple book about an extremely complex hypothesis or even theory. At this point, so much of the material in Alchemy of Nine Dimensions has now been scientifically verified that basically it's not a hypothesis anymore, it's a real thing. And so then in the introduction to the latest edition, I covered the latest of the latest that's going on regarding these discoveries. And we now are beginning to realize that people have been accessing nine dimensions of consciousness in this way, probably for the last 100,000 years, certainly for the last 40 or 50,000 years. So we've really come to a really amazing point. And everything around me as a creator of this particular work is just opening the doorways. It's remarkable and also very shocking for people, which is
Mhm.
something I don't want to let go of, how shocking it is to experience what we're experiencing right now.
Yes, it really, we can just feel the breakthrough on such a visceral level,
Mhm,
right?
mhm. Yeah.
And coming back into all these levels of consciousness that we didn't even realize that we had.
I can
It's
give an example of a breakthrough like that functioning that every single person watching this will immediately go, yeah, that's it. And it's a breakthrough that I had during the last year, which is the difference between our time, third dimensional space and time, and geological time. And we have been in the middle of an awesome awakening of the tectonic realm, which is not very much fun considering all the earthquakes and the California coast and volcanoes, etc. But during this year, what's happened is there's been a real breakthrough on the way geological time really works. And so now we understand the meaning of that. And it's a very, very profound thing for us to comprehend because chances are not very many people watching this are actually going to experience a disaster like that because geological time takes an immense amount of time. And that's been very reassuring for me this last year because you get to the point where things are so crazy. You feel like the volcano that isn't even in the backyard is going to blow up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yes,
that's
it
a good
does feel
example
that way.
of dimensional intelligence, I think, what these dimensions actually mean.
Yes, yes, that's so powerful. And I know we're feeling that even if it's happening on the other side of the world, we're still feeling it.
Oh yeah, especially
And
for me, especially Italy. In fact, my trilogy has a tremendous amount of information in it about Campi Flegrei, which is the volcanic area, the fiery fields that seems to be very much on edge at this moment in time. And so when um, Campi Flegrei started to act up again, I realized like, oh my God, that was prophetic on some
ah,
level, you know? And
yes,
the reason I think this is an important little pearl of wisdom is because I'm beginning to think that each dimension has its own time sequence, that they function very different in time. Certainly, we understand this dimension, and I now feel that we understand the first dimension too, because the first and second dimension are basically driving this tectonic experience that we're having. But then if we get into the fourth dimension, which is the realm of emotional archetypes and archetypes of consciousness, and we can feel the fourth dimension. We don't touch it the way we touch the third dimension in linear space and time. But that fourth dimensional time situation is very malleable and very changeable. We start realizing we can like instantly go through an emotional body block, or it might take us 10 years of therapy. We start to sense, now I can't explain fourth dimensional time, but it feels different than the third dimension. And so then I think we can assume as we get into the higher dimensions, the fifth through the ninth, that each one of them is functioning according to a certain process of time, which I think is a fascinating idea.
that is very fascinating. And so I would love to give people a little sense for at least a few of the dimensions,
Hmm.
if you're okay to go in that direction.
Yeah,
Starting with the first dimension, which, as you say, is the iron crystal core of the
mhm,
earth.
that's right.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that and why is that important to us?
Well, what this is Pleiadian information that I later verified some of it scientifically. And the first dimension is the center of any body in the universe, our planet or the sun or even an asteroid. And what goes on with the first dimension of all of these elements in the universe is they all communicate with each other. So when we go into the first dimension, the very center of our planet, we immediately get in touch with universal consciousness and galactic consciousness. And so the Pleiadians said that's where the Akashic records are, the ancient records of time. And they say that any one of us can travel into the first dimension to access the records of time. And I spend a lot of time doing that because the information is just literally a gold mine. And then we come up through the planet, through the second dimension, the realm of the magma and the crustal shifting and the volcanoes and earth, everything going on down there, including even microbes, even including, I think of the second dimension as being the interior part of our bodies, and then the third dimension being existing in linear space and time. And so the reason the second dimension is so valuable is that it gives us the chance to be able to tune into things like microbes and viruses and all kinds of other forms of slower and different consciousness. And then, of course, we're very familiar with the third dimension. Don't have to
Yes,
explain much.
that is our realm that we
That's where the
understand.
only thing to say about it is it's very wise to keep a sense of the four directions, north, south, east, and west, when we're in this dimension.
Mhm. I do think thinking about the second dimension for a moment, I think that's so fascinating how we're talking about the microbes in the soil, but also the microbes within our bodies and how we are deeply interconnected with that layer for our health.
It's our biome,
Hmm.
if you think about it. And it's a whole universe of live beings and parasites and viruses and microbes, everything. And this is so interesting to me because I don't go to doctors very often, if ever, because the only person who can really feel what's in his or her second dimension is that person. And so it's so important to learn how to tune into that. And luckily, so many therapists and modern writers and therapists are giving us information about how to tune into the second dimension. You can literally feel whether your biome is healthier or not.
Right.
And you can even feel what substance to take if it's out of balance. You know what I mean?
Yes, I think this is so important. As far as food and nutrition, I feel it's so important to see how I feel about something before I eat it, right? Because
Mhm.
my body will tell me if I should have that or not. Like there's a very clear sensation of a yes or a no. And
Yeah.
yeah, same with supplements.
Yeah, I agree. And
Absolutely.
I think we used to live that way for thousands and thousands of years. Modern medicine has attempted to take that away from us in order to control us. But we don't have to be controlled by modern medicine, nor is it a very smart idea, especially after the last 5 years.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And we are also rapidly regaining our consciousness of being able to sense those nuances, of the
Mhm.
yes and the no. So yeah, that's so important.
Yeah. And the second dimension and the fourth dimension are very closely related. In fact, all of the even dimensions, 2, 4, 6, and 8, are very related. And then the odd ones, 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, are related. And so as we process our second dimensional issues, our health and what we're going to eat and how we're taking care of ourselves, we just automatically connect it up with emotional processing. And so what's going on there is when we start doing emotional processing, then what happens is we're in the fourth dimension. And the fourth dimension is the most difficult dimension for all of us because it's very polarized and very dualized, and it's split between like dark and light and positive and negative. And so as we process things, we need to learn how to go to both ends of a problem. When you find yourself like having a really strong opinion about let's say America going into Venezuela and taking their leader out, you got to really watch your emotions because your emotions are going to be going back and forth, and I feel this way, I feel that way. If you just keep working on it, just keep tuning into it, you come to a position of neutrality. And in order to get to that position of neutrality, you really got to get out pretty far on, I feel this way about that, or I don't feel that way. You get into fights with people, and this has been especially a feature of the last, 5 years. But when you get to that position of neutrality on anything, your consciousness immediately moves right into the fifth dimension. And the fifth dimension is the heart. And so the goal always is to go through that processing and clear your consciousness, clear your past life memories, clear your early childhood disturbances, whatever they are, because then you move into the heart. And more of us are moving into the heart, more so. And it's ironic, isn't it? Because the times we're living in are so heartless. And yet each one of us as an individual is moving more into the heart all the time.
Yes, we need we need the heart consciousness
Yeah,
more than anything. And
yeah.
I feel that there's this sense that our hearts can handle what our minds cannot, right?
Mhm.
Our hearts know a deeper level. I guess it's this fifth dimensional connection,
Mhm.
perhaps, of
I
how
think that's good.
to work with what's going on around us.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, the mind thinks and the heart knows.
Uh-huh.
There's
Right.
a confidence in the heart. And then, of
Yes.
course, we could go up to the through the higher dimensions, which we will at some point. But I would like to emphasize how difficult astrology is at this moment in time, and how difficult it's going to be all the way through the spring. It looks like the planets are all set up to just keep pushing us as hard as we're being pushed right now. And so the new moon 2 days ago really set off a lot of stuff. And the new moon had a lot of planets in Capricorn that are moving into Aquarius. And as each one of these planets moves into Aquarius, and some of them already have, the moon has, for example, I think the sun is in Aquarius tomorrow. But as we go into Aquarius, this stuck feeling, this feeling of like I'm really working on this. I'm really going to change it. I'm really going to get someplace. And then you get the end of the day, I don't know about you, but I just go, well, I didn't get any place today. I mean, it's been feeling that way, all the way through the fall, the late fall and in up to the current time. Well, at this point, everything is going to start going off. And because of Aquarius and Pluto in Aquarius. And I would say that at this point, with the way this is playing out, I don't know what I would do without working with the 9 dimensions. So let's go to the sixth dimension, right out of the heart. And the sixth dimension is the realm of sacred geometry and sacred platonic forms and all the geometrical. I mean, looking around at nature, all the seashells, everything grows according to Fibonacci spirals and beautiful angular creations and tesseracts and all kinds of great things. And the sixth dimension is what holds things in form. So if we start becoming more and more conscious of using our our heart power in the third dimension, if we start becoming more conscious of the sixth dimension, our sense of our heart power starts to like get larger and larger and larger. Like in workshops, this was the place where Gerry and I always had to be the most careful because when someone experiences a really major heart opening, they can have a heart attack. And this is the kind of thing that actually happens. The statistics show this, especially at midlife crisis. And so the sixth dimension is what's actually holding all that power in form for us in our bodies in the third dimension. And so this is why studying sacred sites, studying temple technology, studying Egyptology, say, or crop circles or whatever, all of these ways of understanding the sixth dimension are very powerful for us because those kinds of esoteric subjects and knowledge can actually be brought right into the third dimension by us. And actually, you could almost say that our purpose as human beings is to bring this sacred awareness of the universe into our dimension. And so during the last year or two, we've had some incredible six-dimensional discoveries, such as the temple complex is way below the Giza Plateau, a mile or two down. The rooms, I just got a video yesterday on they found that kind of underground technology under Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
way under Göbekli Tepe, there is a whole underground complex that is has 13 stories of chambers. Okay, now that doesn't surprise me that much because there's a place called Derinkuyu in Turkey that has already been explored, and it also has 13 floors. So this is some kind of civilization and culture that existed before the recent cataclysm, the one 12,000 years ago. Well, as these things are discovered and as people contemplate it, what they're actually doing is they're bringing the sacred geometrical realm into our dimension. And we need this. The reason we're in so much trouble right now is because we have been so divided from the sacred by scientific materialism, you know. And then the dimensions go up. The next one, the seventh dimension, is sound. And then sound creates geometry. And that's been proven with cymatics and different forms of sound teaching. But if you go into the seventh dimension, And if you start working with crystal bowls, you start working with tuning forks or whatever you're working with, you're actually working with a very high dimension because that level of sound is actually cosmic sound. It's the music of the spheres. And so here we have this wonderful little being that I compared to Santa Claus in my videos this last winter. Three-eye atlas is like Santa Claus going through our solar system on a sleigh, bringing gifts to all of us. And three-eye atlas is also creating some kind of mysterious sound. And I hope that it's going to be detected. It probably will. Then once we go above the seventh dimension, we move into the realm of the divine or the realm of God. And this is a realm this is dimension where intentions are coming to us from sacred intelligences, guiding us as to what we should be doing right now. And so that's why at this point in time, prayer and meditation and tuning it at that higher eighth dimensional level. I mean, I'm not even worried about people are going or whether people are going to pray and tune in or not, because I think this is going to be so intense that they just are going to have to. And I think that's going to be one of the big shifts. Then the ninth dimension, according to the Pleiadians, is the dimension of time, where intentions actually come to the universe, from the universe into the divine mind. So as you can see, there isn't a single thing I said that most people don't have a little bit of a hook on. Like the Bible says, that our reality was created by the Word. And that's the same thing as saying, the voice of God through the sacred geometry is what creates what we are.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow, thank you for this whirlwind tour through the dimensions. That's really, really powerful to receive it all in a nutshell. And one piece that I would love to return to there in the middle is this dynamic that I'm perceiving between the sixth and seventh, you know. So if the sixth is the sacred geometry and the seventh is sound, when we go to Egypt, right, and we know that these chambers, like the king's chamber and many places in Egypt, are resonance chambers.
Mhm. Yeah, that's right.
And so they're built to hold that sound, and they are sacred geometric structures in and of themselves. So what is your understanding of how the ancient Egyptians were working with all of this?
Well, the ancient Egyptians, and in my case, I go back at least 50,000 years with Egyptology easily. And they're a very, very advanced consciousness. And I think I've always just kind of felt like when you get into the higher dimensions, fifth, even the fifth and sixth, seventh, when you get into those dimensions, I think that the beings in those dimensions come in and out of form. And so I think the Egyptian culture appears periodically, and we certainly know that it did during the Pharaonic period, which is basically 5,000 BC to, 0 AD. But the Egyptian culture goes back way before that. And that's what Zahi Hawass and the Egyptians' antiquities people don't want to have anybody figure out. Because, our whole scientific materialist paradigm right now is based on the idea that we are the most advanced version of species on this planet since the beginning of time, right? And boy, I've really noticed how advanced people are lately. I mean, it's the cosmic joke at this point.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. My kids and I have conversations about this every day. You know, the birds are so highly intelligent, more so than many of the humans these days.
And the birds are very seventh dimensional. If you
Mhm.
think about it, they provide a sound background in our 3D reality. And I think that's why we all intuitively love them so much for their beauty and for their sound.
Yeah, I have always felt that the birds are weaving the reality with their
Yeah,
song.
it's true.
And that dawn chorus and dusk chorus that's continually wrapping around, the
Yeah,
opposite.
and so that's very, very good, Jocelyn, because that's a way of saying that sound is weaving reality, which in
Mhm.
fact it is. And the ironic thing about it is all the kids know that.
Yeah, right. The kids know
The
this,
parents have
especially
forgotten,
the
but the
younger
kids
ones.
know it.
Yes. Yes, yes. Well, these are our next generations coming in. They're gonna know what to do with
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, and on that level, I've been doing a lot of podcasts this fall on really far out material, especially Three Eye Atlas. And because it's so far out, the only podcasters who really understand anything about it are very young. And I'm
Mhm.
talking to people who are in their early 20s who just understand, basically certainly understand everything I've ever written or thought about so far.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
don't feel pessimistic at all about the eventual outcome, but I'm very realistic about how tough this is going to be.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And do you have a sense, Barbara, for the time frame that we're moving through? You know, I
Mhm.
think I think many of us are wondering, like, in our lifetime, are we going to get there? You know, or in like my kids are 12 and 15, you know, in my children's lifetime, are we going to get to that
Mhm.
new place? What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that we're going to be so shockingly far along by the end of 2027 that we won't believe it. Now, that's just basically 2 years from now. So then the question immediately goes to, judging by how this has gone so far, how the hell could I make a statement
Yeah.
like that? Well, the only way I can make a statement like that is to suggest what seems to prove that probably that's going to happen. And I think it's the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune in 0 to 1 degrees Aries, February 20th. So at this point, as you and I are talking, we're like a month away from a conjunction of Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Okay, now, first of all, Saturn conjuncts Neptune every 60, 70 years or whatever it is. That's not an uncommon conjunction. The issue is, when does it conjunct in Aries? Because 0 degrees Aries is the starting point of all the cycles with any planet, with any house position or whatever. The key is to look at what happened when something was in 0 degrees Aries. And I just heard an astrologer recently saying that everybody should just get out their charts and mark 0 degrees Aries on the chart, which I haven't done yet, but I think it's probably a pretty good idea. But the value of astrology is that we can go back to the previous time when Saturn conjuncted Neptune and take a look at what happened then for some guidance to what is going to happen in a month.
Mhm.
1 month. Okay.
Right. Yes, and that was
Right.
that was
So
37 years ago. Yeah.
Right. So the last time Saturn conjuncted Neptune, and most astrologers are still working on this one. Some people think it's 14,000 years ago. I don't think so. Um, and to me, it doesn't have to be exact. If they come within a degree of each other in 0 or 1 degree Aries, that's good enough for me. So if you look at it that way, it takes us back to about 500 BC. Now, in 500 BC, we suddenly had an explosion of spiritual teachers and masters coming to our planet. Buddha, Zoroaster, a little bit later than that, Jesus. And just if you start looking at the major religions, you'll see an appearance of really major teachers of light. And we started a spiritual renaissance 2,500 years ago, around 500 BC. And that spiritual renaissance has played out in various ways in the major religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam. And if you look at things closely, the archetypes and the like teachings that those major religions have been working with are getting very tired, and they're all fighting with each other at this point. So what I see as a seer is we're coming to a level of utter exhaustion, kind of like the level that people get to when they finally stop a war. And what I see coming very soon now is just simply no arguments about it, no worries about it. I just see the whole fabric of that 2,500 year development just simply melting. Doesn't go away. The churches are still there. The people still have their issues. But that lineage going through that whole period is going to shift into something else. And so something else is starting 1 month from now. And I wish I could tell you what I think it is. I just keep observing everything that's going on like you do. But I do find it very hard to imagine how that could shift. So I'll be looking for little cues and little seeds, little early seeds of something new that I think are going to develop very intensely all the way through 2027. I expect by the end of 2027 have a sense of direction.
And the astrology really supports that 2 year time frame that you're given
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
have
yeah,
so many major and especially the outer planet transits. You know, we have this Pluto-Uranus trine that will
that's
be going on from now through actually 2028.
right.
It's just a major catalyst
Right,
for
it's incredible. And yeah, and what I did, Jocelyn, is first of all, I analyzed all of the transits from 2023 to through the end of 2027. And it was a tremendous amount of work. And the more I worked on it, and the more I saw what was coming in 2026 and 2027, what's happening with our solar system is truly extraordinary and may not have ever been seen before. So then what I realized, this would be back in 2022. I started to realize I can't explain this. I can't even give you a really good explanation for the new moon 2 days ago. I've seen a whole pile of astrologers stumble all over it because everything is so unusual and different from anything that we've ever known before. So that's why I created my seasonal writings. So I decided, okay, I can see that something incredible is coming, but I can't explain what it is. What do you do with that? If you're going to be honest. So
Mhm.
I started my readings for the seasons at the spring equinox in 2023. And what I figured was if I just can describe with each season what actually changed and what would appear to be coming. And then if I can watch with the next season as to whether that actually happened, I figured if I did that all the way to 2027, I might have some understanding of what's going on. So right now the winter solstice is posted, and that the winter solstice reading covers December 21st through March 21st, the spring equinox. And I just reread it before I came to do your show. It's bang on. So somehow it's almost like going through a swamp because the things are. Who could have known a year ago the three-eye atlas would come flying in and start affecting all the planets in the solar system? You couldn't know that. So I think there's all kinds. I think Three-Eye Atlas actually is a very good example of the kinds of cosmic intelligence and the kind of changes coming through from very high beings. I think that we're being influenced much more than we realize. And I can barely verbalize it. Now, I also am part Cherokee and come from, I was trained by my grandfather. So I'm a Cherokee teacher. And in our traditions, if you go way, way back, like 10, 15, 20,000 years, it looks like periodically the legends say that these great beings just came from the sky and came into our planet and worked with us. And I think there may be something like that coming, but I don't know, you know.
Yes,
And I
right.
don't sit around waiting for that. I spend my time doing what I can do,
Mhm.
you know.
Yes, right. We don't want to sit and wait. And it's an
Yeah.
interesting thing to feel. There's this feeling of being in the void right now.
Hmm.
That's the best way I could
Yeah,
verbalize
that's a
it,
very good
right?
way to
It's
put
like
it. Yeah.
can't see what's ahead and don't hardly know where we are at this moment, but
Mhm.
we know we're going somewhere, right? And so
Yeah.
it's such an interesting juxtaposition of feelings of like knowing
Hmm.
that we're moving forward, but we feel that we're in the void at this moment.
Hmm.
Um, is there anything else that we should know from your Cherokee lineage or anything else that wants to be shared from there? I'm just so curious because that feels so important and maybe relevant.
Yeah, I think I've been sharing it in my work all the way. My work is part of that, especially catastrophobia, which has
Okay.
been retitled Awakening the Planetary Mind. In other words,
I
in my
love that
writing
book.
and all that, I've been really over the years saying different things. But really, the Native American traditions are really, really simple in terms of observing the four directions and all the things that we need to do with our family life and meditation. I've been teaching that type of information for years. But lately, I'm beginning to think that there may be something that's about to happen through the traditions. Um, but I don't know. I'll know it when it happens.
Yeah.
It's this whole thing is very much like that, isn't it? You know, you just
Yes.
don't know until something actually happens and you go, oh, okay, I see how that fits into, you
Mhm.
know, reality, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely.
Hmm. Hmm.
And circling back to Three Eye Atlas as well. And so interesting how Three Eye Atlas came in and circled us, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but the fact that it made these close passes to one of our planets after another, and then the sun, and then Jupiter is where it's going
Mhm.
next. Um, is there more you would want to say about that as far as it bringing a higher consciousness in? What do we need to know about that?
Well, this is a time as it's out to Jupiter for everybody to be working on sacred teachings and, you know, things like alchemy of nine dimensions, any of the initiatic teachings, because Jupiter is the planet of in our in esoteric um, teaching is the home of the masters. In other words, the masters actually live there. Like I think my Cherokee grandfather lives on Jupiter. I know it sounds kind of strange, but it makes sense to me. And so all I can say to you is that we're in the middle of such an awesome moment in time that in my case, this is my last talk video until Three Eye Atlas goes past Jupiter, because I need to see, and I think I'll be able to tell. I think that those of us who are psychic and those of us who are seers, Three Eye Atlas is going to change something in the Jupiterian field, the field of mastery. And so, based on what I just said a few minutes ago, I tend to think, and there's another reason I'm not going to be talking for a couple of months is I'm losing my voice. I'm going into deep contemplation because I think that a very important, I think the sacred teaching we're waiting for is going to be brought to Jupiter by Three Eye Atlas. And I think it's going to get picked up all over the place. I think all kinds of people are going to suddenly see something deeply meaningful for them that they want to create with. I really feel that. And so I'm at this point, I've just run out of gas, so to speak, and I'm just going to be in deep contemplation. And I would say that the more people who are meditating a lot and are in deep contemplation this winter, I can't even stress to you how important that is. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I and all of my audience are so grateful that you're doing this interview today before you go into that time of contemplation. And also, I'm glad you're doing that and making that space.
Yeah, I definitely need to.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
people, as I've done a lot of work this fall and winter, and people have just been so supportive. I mean, different podcasters and different teachers are starting to join together and work together. And that hasn't happened for a long, long time. And that's got to be a really positive thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do feel that we are getting to this point of enough is enough, with the separation and the division, and even with um, the AI and the feeling like we don't know what's real, we don't know what's false. I think we're getting to a point of enough is enough. We're getting back to basics. We're getting back to what really matters. I think people are really going to make a shift and claim that in a big way in these coming years. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Barbara, for your time today.
Is our hour gone already?
We're mostly there, yes.
It went very quickly. And it's a joy speaking with you.
Yes, truly,
And
truly.
I know you have children at home still, and you're very fortunate. Anybody who has children at home, I've raised four, so they're all out of the house now. But anybody who has children right now at home, your teachers are your children. Have you noticed that? You
That's
get
for
all
sure. Oh,
bollocksed into a corner and they come up and say, "Hey, mom."
there
My
is no
kids did
doubt
that.
about that. Yes.
They're the best for that.
Yes, I learn so much from them every day. It
Yeah, I
is,
know.
they're
I know.
wise, wise
Yeah.
young women. Yes. Yeah, well, I'm so grateful to you, Barbara, for all of your books, all of your amazing work and the inspiration that you're bringing. And I can't wait to hear what you'll say on the other side of that portal of Three Eye Atlas getting to Jupiter.
Even though I know you don't read fiction, because all most of us who do research and all that don't read fiction, but you want me to have the publicist send you the trilogy?
Oh, I would love to read your
Okay.
trilogy.
Yeah,
Yes. So
because
much.
I do content fiction. And so people who love reading nonfiction like my work because all the content is there. So I'll have her send it.
Oh, thank you. What a wonderful gift. Thank you so much.
Right. Right.
Yes. Well, so much love to you and blessings for your
Yes.
contemplative months coming up.
Yes.
And yeah, we will see what happens. When I was in Egypt in the Great Pyramid in April 2025,
Hmm.
I received a huge download from the pyramid to come back and be in the pyramid meditating with our crystal bowls, with our tuning forks,
Good,
and
good.
with the group, with vocals um, on at the exact time of the Saturn Neptune conjunction. So we will
Good,
be
good.
there and we'll be in the King's Chamber at that exact time,
Oh, that's really good.
broadcasting that light and that sound frequency out into the world. So we'll see what happens with all of it.
Yeah, I know. And if you do any filming on that or anything, I'd love to see it.
Oh, okay.
That's a
Yes.
wonder good for you for deciding to do that. That makes me feel really happy.
Yeah, and I'm inviting the larger community all around the world to be holding space and, like you said, meditating and holding the highest frequencies at that same time. So we're going to create a big field of light and joy at that time.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Barbara. Have a wonderful day and a
I
wonderful next
will.
few months. And
Yeah,
I will talk
thank you
again
for
soon.
having me and many blessings.
Yes. Many
And to
blessings.
everybody who's watching too, many blessings.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, everybody out there, for being with us today. Much love to you all, and I'll see you again soon. Bye
Yeah.
for now. All right. Thank you so much, Barbara.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bingo.